There are few certainties in life, one of which is that we all age, and there's simply no way to avoid it. The journey of aging doesn't have to be filled with dread. In fact, a positive approach to getting older is what my next guest is all about. As the owner of Home Care Assistance, Lori Wengerd is on a mission to change the way the world ages. Lori, join me. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Gail.
That is interesting that it's not just the fact that we age, but our attitude, and not just the people aging, their attitude, but people around them, their attitude.
Everybody. That's right.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we're finding that today it is medically possible to live as long as 102. And obviously there are people older than that. But we know that by 2050, there will be 1 million centenarians in this country, and any one of us could be there.
Wow.
So, I think the message just needs to be that the choices we're making in our own lives today will make the difference in our health span and not just our lifespan.
Do we want to live to 102? I mean, will we? I suppose I always say I'd like to live that long if I was having a fulfilling life.
Right. Well, and when people say that to me, I don't want to be 102, I like to say, well, that's because you're not 101. I think there's a major misconception that people at some point will just get tired of living, and that isn't true. And I think sometimes when people are 70, 75, 80, they start to really see their mortality in front of them and maybe not give up is the right word, but just sort of, resign themselves to the fact that they're aging. But if they were told, and really believe that they had 30% more life to live, they might make choices today that would make sure that they have the best independence as they get older.
Do you see a change in attitude of people getting older? I do. I feel like my generation has more young attitude about clothing, ideas, everything, as opposed to my parents.
Right.
And if you keep going back, every generation has a better view of aging.
You're absolutely right. Well, for one thing, our longevity is growing, so we are aging differently. For another thing, the baby boomers, are 67, 68 years old. Well, that's never been a generation that has just gone quietly.
Right. And you don't want to tell them they're old.
Right. So I think the attitudes are changing. But you're right. I think the generation gap is not like it used to be. Grandchildren love to talk to their grandparents about their stories. And it's really a positive thing for all of us.
I mentioned that you were the owner of Home Care Assistance. Right. So how do you help people lead those independent lives that they want to lead as they age?
Well, we certainly are there to help people stay safely and happily and healthily in their own homes, which we know 89% of people want to do. And we're able to do that by incorporating into our training program something we call our balanced care method. We look at the longest living and healthiest populations in the world and look at those lifestyle factors that they choose that allows them to live longer and happier and healthier. And we incorporate those into how we care for our clients every day.
That's interesting. Give me an example. And what countries are you looking at that seem to be doing it the right way?
And it's not just countries, it's sort of pockets of countries. So the one that we really focus on most is the part of Japan, Okinawa. I think we've all heard that from our history books. But not only are they more likely to live to be 100 in Okinawa, the incidence of cancer and Alzheimer's and arthritis, things that we consider to be sort of inevitable, just are almost non-existent.
Really?
Yeah. And what we find is in countries, in places like that with those long-lived, healthy populations, they are incorporating, of course, physical activity. Of course, healthy nutrition. We all know that, and we get tired of hearing that maybe, but it's true. But also understanding the importance of mental stimulation, continuing your social ties, and also having just a good sense of purpose in your life.
Well, how do we get the older people in our lives to think this way that you've just described? What can we do, say, as children, to help our parents feel like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is hard sometimes to sort of motivate people who have resigned themselves to their lot in life.
Or to think about the future, because sometimes they don't want to do that.
I know. Well, one of the things we tell our clients, we remind them of if they want to retain independence, and to them, to all of us, independence means being able to do our routine daily activities ourselves. Well, in order to do that, you can't just be a couch potato who eats potato chips. So, you do have to incorporate some things into your life to ensure that you still have your mobility, because you certainly don't want to fall. You want to be able to move around your own home. That's what will help keep you there. And you want to make sure that, you stay mentally sharp as well. So point out what the future could look like for them and inject a little bit of hope that that, we find out, research shows that at any point in life.
What you have to do
right.
to get there. Well, I mentioned this is the first part of a series that you're going to be. So next week we're going to talk about the how and where you want to live as you age.
Right.
And is that basically assisted living, at home? We'll look at the different possibilities?
I think, yes, that's right, because everybody has their own thought on what they want to do when they're older, and it really depends on what kind of person you are and what your goals are.
Great, Lori, this has been fascinating.
Great.
Thank you. It's nice to talk
Thank
to you.
Thank you, Gail.
We'll see you again.
Thanks.
All righty.